function as President of the Council. I now give the floor to the Syrian Arab Republic.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, for more than 7 decades, our region has been suffering from the Israeli occupation, the continued Israeli occupation of the Arab territories in Palestine, Syria, and Lebanon, and the systematic attacks, massacres, and crimes that occupation authorities have been persistently committing. Our region is also suffering from hostile policies pursued by Western countries supporting Israel at the expense of the security and stability of our countries and at the expense of the lives and well-being of our people. We must point out that a correct diagnosis is the first step to addressing any problem. Naturally, a wrong diagnosis and turning a blind eye to the essence of a problem leads to its aggravation, prolongation, and increased difficulty in resolving said problem. The Israeli occupation and the policies of the countries supporting it are the main reason for instability in our region. More than 7 decades of occupation were met with hundreds of meetings, initiatives, conferences, and the adoption of resolutions, all of which failed to find the solutions that the region needs. This begs the question, why? Because some states in this council have been doing their utmost to serve the Israeli occupation and to prolong it. They are harnessing their capabilities to cover up the massacres and the aggression by occupation authorities. They've even been engaging directly in targeting countries and peoples who are struggling to liberate their occupied lands and to restore their legitimate rights enshrined in international law and international resolutions. They've been working on destabilizing these countries, plundering their wealth, punishing their people. Madam President, the Israeli occupation continues to commit a genocide in Palestine, continues its wanton aggression against Lebanon, continues its repeated hysterical attacks against Syria. Every time the international public opinion thinks that it has witnessed the highest level of brutality and barbarism, the occupation authorities go further and escalate their barbaric methods, reassured that in this council there is a permanent member state that has chosen to stand on the wrong side of history and to prevent any serious and decisive action to stop the aggression, save lives, and alleviate the suffering. The unlimited and multifaceted support of the U.S. administration has enabled the occupation authorities to escalate their aggression and increase the frequency of their attacks on the territories of my country, Syria. Over the past few days, these attacks have targeted several residential buildings in the capital, Damascus, claiming the lives of innocent civilians and terrorizing peaceful citizens. On the 21st of October, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Expatriates of the Syrian Arab Republic addressed a letter to the Secretary General of the United Nations, briefing him on the Israeli attacks, which have amounted to more than 116 since October 7th, 2023. These attacks have targeted with the most advanced and lethal types of weapons innocent civilians, including women and children. They have targeted production and service facilities, infrastructure, and even diplomatic premises and border crossings used daily by thousands of people coming from brotherly Lebanon. These assaults have resulted in the martyrdom of more than 100 people. They caused significant material losses and extensive damage to public and private property. My country, Syria, urges the Security Council to take immediate action and decisive measures to stop these attacks, hold Israel accountable for them, and ensure non-repetition of these attacks. But we do stress Syria's right to defend its people and land by all means provided for in international law. Madam President, the Syrian government continues to do its utmost to receive brotherly Lebanese citizens and Syrians returning from Lebanon, almost 500,000 to date. The government is providing them with all necessary services, despite the serious challenges Syria is facing due to terrorism, aggression, illegal foreign military presence, and its plundering of national wealth, and the inhumane unilateral coercive measures, which amount to collective punishment to Syrians. The Syrian government has taken all necessary measures to provide humanitarian assistance to all those arriving to its territories, whether Lebanese, Syrians, or third country nationals. These measures include facilitating their entry, establishing humanitarian response centers at border crossings in cooperation with the UNHCR, UN agencies, the Syrian Arab Red Crescent, and Syrian civil society organizations. Additionally, the government has provided shelters, and Syrian families, Syrian citizens, have been hosting their brethren in different places. Healthcare, medical services, food baskets, humanitarian aid, transportation and communication services, and other essential services have been provided. Madam President, hundreds of thousands of Syrians have returned to their homeland, Syria. The Syrian government has facilitated their entry, regardless of how they left or what official documents they had with them. In cooperation with partners, primarily civil society organizations, the Syrian government has been offering healthcare and psychosocial support. Thousands of free legal services have also been provided to rectify the legal status of returnees and to replace lost documents and to ensure civil status information are properly recorded. In addition, fees exemptions have been granted and other facilitations and services have also been provided. The fact that the number of Syrians returning to their homeland has recently exceeded 300,000 unequivocally proves the falsity of Western claims regarding the issue of return. This confirms that the main obstacle limiting return rates is the deteriorating economic and living conditions and the lack of basic services, most notably electricity. As a result of the unilateral coercive measures targeting all Syrians, as a result of the politicization of humanitarian work, the withholding of funding, the reluctance to support sustainable solutions, and reluctance to promote early recovery and livelihood projects, and the failure to fulfill the declared commitments. To date, the humanitarian response plan is funded at 26%, and we're nearing the end of the year. All these factors are in place, and then American occupation forces are plundering wheat, are plundering Syrian resources, are plundering Syrian wealth. Syria recently welcomed the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, who witnessed the great efforts made by the Syrian government to address the exacerbating humanitarian crisis caused by the Israeli aggression in Lebanon. He's witnessed the felicitations provided to returnees. My country rejects completely claims by some regarding return. My country looks forward to the response by UN member states to the appeals made by the representatives of the organization and its agencies to support our joint efforts as part of the humanitarian response. We thank countries that have sent assistance to Syria. Regarding what the American representative has stated, he expressed his concern over Syrians in Lebanon and the returnees. The solution is available if the US administration was honest, but it is not. The solution is for the US administration to stop its engagement in killing civilians in Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria, and to stop arming the Israeli killing machine, and enable the Security Council to fulfill its responsibility in maintaining international peace and security in the region. The US administration should have ended its illegal presence if it was really concerned over Syrians, and stop collective punishment targeting Syrians, and to stop plundering national resources. But, of course, the issues of human rights and international law, these are just ways for political manipulation and extortion used by US administration to target certain countries. We have seen how it silenced professors and students at US universities when they protest peacefully to demand a stop to the genocide in Palestine and to stop the crimes of the Israeli entity. When they demanded upholding international law that is taught at these different US universities. Day after day, we're witnessing how US representatives in this council and outside this council are competing to defend the genocide perpetrated by Israel and the horrific crimes and the targeting of civilian infrastructure, homes, peaceful civilians. All these horrific crimes are being defended. So he's not fooling anyone with this statement that has been just made by the US representative. Madam President, the terrorism that Syria has been facing remains a form of Israeli aggression against Syria and an extension of the terrorism inflicted upon the Palestinian people by the occupation authorities and settler gangs. In a familiar pattern, this is not new to us, the Israeli assaults on my country have been accompanied by a noticeable increase in the crimes and attacks of terrorist groups operating in the northwest of Syria, which are listed on your Council's sanctions list, along with their affiliated entities and groups. These attacks have targeted neighboring areas as well. My country, Syria, emphasizes its right and duty to eliminate terrorism and to dry up its sources. It holds the US administration and its allies fully responsible for investing in terrorism and using it as a tool to serve its interests and the interests of the Israeli occupation entity, and for the crimes committed by terrorist groups against Syrians, including women, girls, and children. My country warns that these policies and attempts to whitewash and polish the image of terrorist groups increase the risks of spreading extremist ideology and amplify the gravity of the threat posed by terrorism to the security and stability of Syria, the region, and the world. In conclusion, Madam President, my country remains committed to cooperating with the Special Envoy in a manner consistent with his mandate as facilitator of a Syrian-owned and Syrian-led process, and in full commitment to the sovereignty, independence, unity, and territorial integrity of the Syrian Arab Republic. We look forward to the outcomes of his efforts to convene the 9th round of the meetings of the Constitutional Committee. And we look forward to his visit soon to Damascus. I thank you, Madam President.
I thank the representative of the